Good time zone, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It is your boy Tempest Rhineblood, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. This is my first real foray into making content for YouTube, and as opposed to Twitch, where everything is sort of live and on the fly, instead we're doing this recorded and on the fly. There will be some rudimentary editing, as I am working on being able to edit videos as well. And overall, I would say that we are going to attempt a long-form Let's Play. A Let's Play of what, you might ask? The video title probably gives it away, as does what's on the screen right now. However, to explain, we are going to be playing RogueTech. RogueTech is a full modification for the HareBrained Studios game Battletech, which aims to make the game much more like the tabletop version of Battletech and generally adds a lot of complexity, adds a lot of content that wasn't in the HareBrained Studios release, and overall makes for a very different gaming experience than the Battletech campaign that most people would be familiar with. And we will be exploring that content as much as we can. Now, suffice it to say, I am not the most experienced BattleTech player. I am not the most knowledgeable, shall we say, but I do make up for that with enthusiasm, and I do make up for it with being willing to do all sorts of fun stuff. And probably play in suboptimal and substandard ways. And you guys are going to get to see that and probably laugh at my failure. Anyhow, to go over some stuff just for those of you who may be new to Battletech or otherwise new to RogueTech itself, Battletech is a tabletop wargame created by the FAFSA Corporation, not to be confused with the FAFSA, the Federal Financial Application for Federal Student Aid, I think it is. Either way, has nothing to do with that, although it'll probably put you in just as much debt. Battletech is a game of armored combat. Obviously, you can see by the picture in the RogueTech launcher. Pilots known as mech warriors hop into their giant armored killing machines known as mechs and fight each other over, everything that people fight about, resources, logistics, etc. It's a very in-depth, very gritty setting. It's very hard science fiction. There are no extraterrestrials, really. There's no space magic, nothing like that. And even FTL travel is very heavily restricted, shall we say. And Battletech, of course, started out in the probably 1980s with a game called, I think it was Battle Force or Battle Droids, one of the two. But when I was just a wee Tempest, I was probably about 10 years old, I found a copy of the Battletech box set along with the CityTech box set that adapted for urban combat and introduced ground vehicles and infantry to the game. And despite it being extremely complex and very hard to digest, I got way into it. Unfortunately, other 10-year-olds did not, and as a result, I was kind of alone in that interest. Eventually, it kind of fell off, and I let it go, and my only interaction with the Battletech franchise was the other games, Mech Warrior and Mech Commander. Now, those should have probably jogged the memory of quite a few people. Mech Warrior and Mech Commander were more action-focused and real-time tactics-focused versions of the Battletech setting. Mech Warrior putting you as the pilot of an individual mech, and Mech Commander being a more real-time version of what we saw in HareBrained Studios' Battletech. In addition to that, there was also the Mech Assault games, in which they were a little more arcadey, but still put you in the role of a mech warrior, a pilot of a mech. Or in the case of Mech Assault 2, I believe, you were actually the pilot of a battle-armored unit known as an elemental. Now, with all of that said, I think we're going to just dive right in here. We're going to take a look at the RogueTech launcher because there are quite a lot of options here, and I want to explain the game that we're going to be playing. Taking a look at RogueTech, we do see, it's got plenty of stuff going on, plenty of performance tweaks and configuration changes that you can make. But where it really gets in depth is with the actual mod configuration. And to show you what that looks like, that's right here. So just to run through it, RogueTech does have an online-offline mode, or rather a let me put it like this. It's got an online multiplayer mode. It's asynchronous multiplayer, of course. Basically your lance of mechs and support units gets uploaded every so often, and you fight for control of planets and, take things over, blah blah blah. Then you have WarTech IIC, which is an offline mode where you play as a mercenary, interacting with the various factions of the Battletech universe, etc. And that's what we're going to be playing. We're going to be playing the offline WarTech IIC. The map year is actually selectable based on what time period of the Battletech universe you'd like to be in. The 3040s map is the one that most people are going to be familiar with, as it is around the same period as the clan invasion, which is the default setting for the Mech Warrior and Mech Commander games. And as a matter of fact, I believe Mech Warrior 2 and 3 were heavily focused on the clan invasion. Difficulty scaling, this one is pretty simple. It determines, are planets a fixed difficulty of missions, or do mission difficulties scale based on the average cost of units that you're deploying into the mission area. So we're going to be leaving the clan invasion timeline. We're going to be leaving it to difficulty by company strength. That way the difficulty kind of changes as we acquire and upgrade more mechs. And enemy support lances. Default enemy support lances basically means if we routinely drop too many mechs or too many anything really, the enemy will start to bring reinforcements to amp up the difficulty on us. Kill Team's enemy support lances is basically extremely hard to defeat. Basically, they send like ace pilots, heavily customized mechs, etc., etc. Easy enemy support lances is pretty obvious, and no enemy support lances disables that. Spawn randomizers, this randomizes where your allies and enemies are going to be placed on the map, so you're never really playing the same mission twice. Battle deployments, you have manual deployment, where you always have to choose the location. You can ask for deployment type, or you can use automatic deployment, same as the HareBrained Studios Battletech game would. We're going to set this to manual deployment. That way we can easily just drop where on the map we feel like dropping. Control convoys changes the way the default escort convoy missions play in Battletech, basically giving you control of the convoy units you need to escort. This can be interesting in that you can take them kind of off the road, get them out of enemy fire. It gives you a little more control over the mission. Map sizes, we're going to leave at 33%. That is the default. Going to 100% would mean that loading times are going to take approximately forever. Allied support lances, if you play harder contracts with factions that you have good reputation with, they might send reinforcements for you. It's kind of a crapshoot. Combat log toggle, normally I would use floaties, as they are what most people are familiar with in the original vanilla Battletech experience. But I do want to try the combat log. I saw another RogueTech Let's Player, Baradul, who is a very, very chill German guy, also a RogueTech player, much more experienced than me, and he started using the combat log, and it's actually a lot more information. It's very useful. So we're going to switch over to that. The randomized pilots in the beginning, you can choose either random Ronin starting pilots, which are predefined and have fixed stats, etc. Or you can start with randomly generated pilots. Personally, I prefer starting with randomly generated pilots because it gives you a little bit of not versatility, but it makes every playthrough different. Difficulty icon type, I don't really this doesn't really affect me, as the chevrons are an accessibility option for colorblind players. I typically go with skulls. One thing to note about RogueTech is that the difficulty can scale up to 12 skulls, even though the game itself can only display 5. So once you start getting into 5 skull and above missions, you got to start being careful. The base unit eras, they allow base units from selected eras to spawn. Most are canon or apocryphal. That's a nice way of saying that these are all of the units from the tabletop. Everything that's been mentioned in a Battletech novel, everything that's appeared in a Mech Warrior game, everything that's appeared in the Battletech tabletop game. We are not just limited to the things that are in the HareBrained Studios Battletech release. Because if the Battletech community is anything, they are thorough. Every unit from quite literally the first edition of Battle Droids all the way up until now has been cataloged, and I'm pretty sure almost all of them are available in RogueTech. So we're going to stick to the Clan Invasion era. We are not going to mess with the Civil War era. And in essence, let me just confirm something here. Yeah, up to the Clan Invasion era. So while there's a possibility we may end up seeing the Mad Cat or some of the other clan mechs, the clans are going to be hanging out on the periphery, not within the inner sphere, like, during the Clan Invasion, obviously. So it would be safe to assume that the game that we're playing takes place pretty early, well, around the middle of the Battletech timeline, prior to the Clan Invasion and the events of the Mech Warrior games, but after the original first edition of Battletech and the Succession Wars. The Dark Age era, 3130 plus, is the most recent, second most recent events to drop in the Battletech timeline. Currently, there's a second clan invasion happening. It's called the Ill Clan era. Editor's note: include a picture of the Ill Clan rulebook here at some point. But overall, we're going to stick to what is considered classic Battletech. Additional content, this is all custom and non-canon units. So things like nuclear weapons carriers, the Quickcell Corporation and its bootleg gear, things of that nature. I personally, I'm not going to mess with this. I like to stick to canon. The only other thing that we would probably want to enable would be the change urban biomes to war-torn nightmares, also known as the concrete jungle mod. Basically, that rigs certain buildings and certain areas in urban maps to be traps. But we're not going to do that. Additional flashpoints and stories. The first option, of course, is the Arano Restoration. Some of you may recognize that name. That is the core campaign of Battletech Vanilla. And it is, basically, it gives you the option to play through the campaign as part of RogueTech. Next up is a series of flashpoints based on planet LV-426, which we probably are not going to mess with, as I'm told it's extremely difficult. And let's see, Heretic, basically, it's a Warhammer 40k crossover. And really the only thing that we would include, probably, would be the Battle of Tukaid, which is the end of the clan invasion and the first major defeat that the clan suffered at the hands of Comstar. Excuse me. Following that, additional pilots. Basically, we would just be including additional Ronin pilots, predefined characteristics, predefined stats. They're fun people that you can find in the hiring halls. Overall, that would be it. And finally, emblem options. We're just going to enable all of them except the Warhammer emblems. The portrait loader options. Those are fine. Evacuated cities. Basically, it's just an option to, if you step on a car, there's like screams and whatnot. Personally, I leave that off. I feel like it just drags performance down. So, Fog of War by unit basis is it's the way the game is really kind of intended to be played, I feel like. But keeping the Fog of War revealed would sort of change things so that you know if one unit knows where an enemy is, you're going to know where that enemy is regardless. Night vision overlay pops a green tint over the screen if it's a night fight and you have a sensor equipped that has night vision. Not that big of a deal. The speed mod options are a little bit interesting. One thing to note is that apparently having the speed mod on can affect performance. So if we do see a little bit of stuttering during gameplay, obviously I'll be reviewing this and hopefully we won't see it. We're going to leave it at 50% increased speed for now. The problem is if this does turn out to be the issue and I do need to reconfigure the speed mod, we have to basically reinstall the entirety of RogueTech, and it's a pretty big mod. It's like 3 times the size of vanilla Battletech and all sorts of crazy stuff. But either way, we're going to continue. QOL options, skip intro. This is just a good idea. Using mouse button 4 as the escape key, again, doesn't really affect me. Auto sorting mechs, again, this doesn't really bother me, so I'm not going to mess with it. Effects options, Battletech sound replacements by Zoda 6, replaces some of the vanilla sound effects with ones from the Mech Warrior games, things of that nature. Skipping travel cutscenes, again, extremely helpful. The Crystal Clear mod is outdated. We don't really use it. Silence, again, doesn't bother me. Panic system, again, doesn't bother me. Same for unit icons. Tech and repair bonuses. We want the repair armor after battle. It's a more accurate experience, so we're taking that. And everything else we're just not going to bother with. The multi-thread rendering and everything is to make sure that RogueTech runs on your machine. When I say that this is a beefy mod, I am not kidding. This is an extremely beefy mod. So that is going to be something that we're going to do everything we can to keep performance solid. And then we will go ahead and launch RogueTech and start up a new we'll start up a new campaign and see what happens. All right, we're going to go ahead and launch RogueTech now. And for those of you wondering why there's a sudden jump cut here, remember how I said every time you have to reconfigure RogueTech that you have to reinstall the entire mod? That happened. So now we're going to go ahead and get right in there. I'm going to modify some stuff in Streamlabs. We're going to maybe do some fancy editing, I don't know, and we'll go from there. So we are back. We're going to be playing some RogueTech, as mentioned. I'm sure I've already said that I'm so used to doing this for like Twitch. And we're going to start with a career. You can see that continue is available. That's because I have a save that I've been playing. I'm actually going to be continuing to play that in my off time, and we're going to hit new. There's probably going to be one or two shortcuts to minimize loading screens. And what that's going to do is, you know, RogueTech takes a little bit to load, and I'm sure that's even on like a good machine, but on mine it might take a couple minutes, and I'd rather not have all that dead time unless I'm actually going to talk to someone about something. So we're going to discuss modifying everything at game start. And this is quite a few interesting things, and I know rule number one of RogueTech, and you'll hear this, or you'll actually probably see it as a loading screen tip if you ever play the game. Tip number one of playing RogueTech is read the wiki. RogueTech has its own wiki where it explains all of the various complexities and myriad little quirks of the mod pack. And with those quirks and different things, you can actually find you can find yourself in situations that you never would have expected to be in. For example, when I first launched the mod, the first time I ever played RogueTech, I didn't know what company type was, so I left it alone, and I ended up starting with no mechs, only vehicles. It was fun. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and start, normally. Now, company type is really the big thing here, along with obviously parts for mech assembly being increased. The default in the HBS vanilla Battletech release is 3. Parts for mech assembly here is 5, and from what I understand, I have not actually managed to do this myself. There's also cross assembly, where if you get like two different variants of urban mech, let's say the R60 and the R60L, you can combine those parts if you have 3 of one and 2 of the other, and you still get an urban mech out of it. Now we might mess with that in this, we might not. But we're going to go through all these settings real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and start our game. The company type is the big one. It determines what you start with, as well as where in the galaxy you start. So, for example, if I were to take Oregon, I would end up with mechs associated with the Oregon Reach, and it would result in starting over in the Oregon, like, Reach, that area. If I were to go to, say, Com Guards, for example, I would start with mechs associated with the Comstar faction. I would start with extra reputation with the Comstar faction, and I would start in Comstar-controlled space. I believe if you jump all the way down here, you can actually start on Terra at the center of the Battletech universe by selecting Word of Blake. And Word of Blake is headquartered on Terra, so you would actually start there. But we ideally, what you are recommended to start with on as a newer player is Mercenary. It starts you off within Inner Sphere space, right on the border of Steiner and Merrick territory, I believe, and it gives you a decent selection of mechs to start with. You can also start with any of the known factions from the Battletech universe. For example, House Liao, that would start us in Capellan Confederation space with Capellan Confederation mechs, and it would start us with extra reputation with House Liao. So that is also an option. You can actually start in clan space using clan tech. This is a terrible idea, because clan space is so far removed from the rest of the inner sphere and everything else that you can find yourself screwed. You can also find yourself screwed if you pick something like a BA platoon, which is going to give you nothing but battle armor. It will not give you any mechs. Or, let's see, where's another one? Farmers Rise Up would give you industrial mechs like Cattle Masters. Militia gives you vehicles. Tanks Inner Sphere is fairly self-explanatory. Overall, I would just generally say that starting as Mercenary or one of the 5 Great Houses is probably your best bet if you're a new player to RogueTech. We are still somewhat new, so we're not going to be picking... we will not be picking Mercenary this time around, although I have picked Mercenary before, and it generally leads us to some pretty good places. I think this time we're actually going to play a little differently. We're going to go with the Magistracy of Canopus. I don't really know what mechs are typically associated with them, but I would assume that we are going to be starting with mechs and not battle armor and vehicles. So next up, Friendly Fire, self-explanatory. Contract difficulty variance generally tends to, it affects how different the maximum difficulty can be when you generate a contract, and contracts tick over every month, just like shops do. Every time you get a financial report, basically the shops and the contracts will be updated for the system that you're in. Salvage, normal. Contract payments, normal. Commander XP, normal. Advanced Mech Warriors, well, let's set that to normal. Let's leave that alone. Pilots per system we'll leave alone. Ronin higher chance, we'll leave that alone. We're gonna leave basically all of these alone. Starting money. You're going to notice that your starting money is 2.5 million C-bills. This is probably going to seem like a lot if all you've played is vanilla Battletech, where, you know, starting with 250,000 C-bills is a big deal. And upgrades like that are 100k are pricey. In this, the average mech costs about 7 million C-bills to buy outright. Probably more as they go up based on tonnage. So starting with 2.5 mil is pretty average. Shop selling and scrap return, average. So we'll go ahead and start our game. Now we find ourselves at the first of many loading screens. As someone who's going to be editing this video later, I will be cutting this out and resuming it when we get to the actual main screen of the game. Alright, now that we've loaded back up, we can see the pilot creation screen is sort of the same, sort of different. You can see here that there are pilot quirks that you can get. You can start with random units, random equipment, etc. The first thing we're going to do, just to get the everything out of the way, I suppose, is we're going to just pick an appearance. You can still use the custom commanders from the original Battletech. Nobody's really stopping you. But you can just sort of pick whatever, and it tends to work out. There's quite a few pictures here, and whatever it is you pick, I'm sure you can find something to be happy with the results. I'm sure you can also import new photos in order to do more, but I'm not gonna mess with that. A lot of these photos you can see are clearly taken from Battletech art. There are a couple from, it looks like maybe Far Cry, Cyberpunk 2077. Plenty of, you can actually use a picture of Darius. I don't know why Darius appears to have become a meme. Rutger Hauer in Hobo with a Shotgun. I'm pretty sure some of these are Metal Slug fan art. There's a few. These look like Republic pilot helmets. A lot of Republic pilot helmets. Seen that somewhere before, but I'm not sure where. Yeah, overall, I would say that there's a lot of interesting portraits that you can use. Um, I'm scrolling through here trying to pick one because, of course, I am. One thing to note is that I tend to not pick serious portraits. Like, I tend to take things very unseriously. But I think what I'm going to do on this is... Done. Let's go with we're gonna go with Decker's skull. Because much like I imagine most people, every time I played vanilla Battletech, Decker, being one of the first pilots you get, he would always die in some ridiculous way. It was the worst. So first up, we're going to change our pronouns to he. That does change some of the affected portraits, but not all of them. Personal opinion, I don't think it should change any, but that's not really my choice. And we're going to pop through some voices until we get something we want. Pagan Horde, by the way, another RogueTech and Battletech YouTuber, just passed away 2 days ago. May he rest in peace. We won't be using his voice out of respect. I mean, simple as.
You crazy? Guy's gotta be a full fanatic freak, otherwise he would have split out of this town 20 minutes ago.
I don't know what that is. I don't know what half these voices are, to be completely honest.
Huh? Oh, God, I was ready your mind.
I don't know what the deal is with that. I think these are all, like, major Battletech YouTubers, except for this one. This is Elias Tufexis, the voice of Adam Jensen, along with a few other characters. Adam Jensen is probably his most well-known, though. And we're gonna just go with some random names. Yeah, so we've got Fester here, Arnold Fisher. And now we get to choose all sorts of other things. Choosing where we were born, it's a lot longer now. There are significantly more options. And each one of these gives you a bonus to 2 stats, and I believe it gives you some reputation as well, but don't quote me on that. Since we're starting with Magistracy of Canopus already, we probably want to spread that out a little bit. So we can go with... We are not going to go with clan, that's for sure, because there are some restrictions on clans that we don't want to mess with. We can take the Free Rasselhague Republic. That's fine, I guess. Our youthful interest, each one of these gives you different qualities, some of which are extremely useful, like Spacer makes Argo upgrades cheaper. Technology gives you Lost Tech experience, which does reduce some operating costs, and it also, gives you some extra mech points. Technician also gives you extra mech points. So that's what you want probably to keep mechs operational and keep the mech bay running. Survival is much more for like combat. History, it gives you lost tech experience and gives you bookish, but overall I would probably say that the best two are going to be spacer and technology. So we're going to go with technology, and our coming of age, this affects a random item that we get on day 2. Commando Veteran is the easy, well, not easy, but it's the common starter option. It gives you a random bushwhacker mech, the ex-military trait, which gives you bonus HP and some extra accuracy. It also gives you better recoil management. And Lucky gives you slightly lower jam chance and slightly higher clustering chance for cluster weapons like LRMs. That said, we've also got Freelancer, which gives us the Drunk quirk and the Reckless quirk. Again, Reckless, it lowers enemy evasion, but it also lowers your evasion. And it gives you a random hunchback. Solaris Gladiator gives you assorted gladiator equipment, which is a lot of like melee stuff. Protomech pilot stuff. It gives you a protomech. Gives you the Mech Warrior quirk and neural implants. Flight School Instructor gives you the ability to pilot VTOLs, and you get either a LAM or a VTOL, but you do have the Disgraced trait as well. Mercenary, it's another common one. It gives you the Athletic, it gives you the Mech Warrior, and you get a random advanced unit. Inheritor, pretty simple. Legitimate Businessman, you get the Dishonest quirk, but you get the Merchant quirk and 3 million extra C-bills. Team Bonsai, I wouldn't really mess with this one. Same for Battlesuit Infantry, because you're going to get random battle armor and random battle armor equipment. Unless you know how to use battle armor, you are probably not likely to get much effect out of this. That said, Enlisted Mech Warrior is also a decent idea. You get Lost Tech weaponry for whatever starting mechs you have, the Brave and ex-military quirks. Overall, a lot of these are pretty good. A free Bushwhacker is nothing to sneeze at. However, it is a good idea in, I think in our particular case, we are going to take Enlisted Mech Warrior, and we're going to see how that shakes out. RogueTech. War is business, and business is hell. Welcome to the Inner Sphere. You're a mercenary on your very own Argo. Will you prosper or be remembered only as yet another thug who couldn't cut it? We're probably going to be remembered as yet another thug who couldn't cut it, let's be honest, but we are going to start our adventure now. So we are going to change a few things real quick, or actually we will probably change them in an off-screen cut. And we're back. We've just changed the name of our mercenary company and our colors. I went with kind of a Nurglish, for those of you that play Warhammer 40k, a greenish, yellowish-greenish thing, appropriately for our commander, whose name is Fester. And for a name, we went with the Festering Wounds. I couldn't really find an icon that fit, so I just picked that. But there's a few things we're going to do now prior to embarking upon our first mission. And this is important for anybody that's just picking up RogueTech or that's just getting into this. The first thing we're going to do is check the barracks. We're going to see what random pilots we have been assigned, and we're going to spend some of our starting experience. As we can see, here's Fester. He's our guy. Um, Gunnery, he's weakened, and we're going to need him to shoot people at some point, so he's taking that. Tactics is always useful. However, I think in this particular instance, we're not really sure what we're gonna do with him right now, so I'm just gonna go 4-4-4-4 all the way down, and we're gonna see what happens. Bugs. He's another rando. But if we take a look right here, underneath where the cursor is, we can see he can pilot mechs, vehicles, VTOLs, battle armor, and lambs, which are land air mechs. He can pilot quite literally anything. That's very good. This guy is going to be MVP. Ironhead, Foreguts is super good, but he can only pilot mechs, and that's not great. Kickstart is able to pilot vehicles and battle armor. He cannot pilot mechs, but he does have 6 tactics. We probably want to put him in some kind of like electronic reconnaissance vehicle, which we can get hold of. It would probably be like a J. Edgar or something, which is a hover vehicle that does ECM stuff. We have Ransor, who is 7 tactics. Jesus. Remove 1 bar of stability damage when reserving. If you can't pilot mechs, what's the point? Like, that seems like a bonehead call. 7 tactics, man. Wow. Ruthless, he just kind of seems like an average pilot. Nothing really stands out about him. He can only pilot mechs, so it's not that great. Shorty, he's got awareness, which means he cannot be sensor locked. Extra initiative. He's got good tactics, but his gunnery and guts are like toilet tier. So that's not great. Shotel, nothing really stands out. She can only pilot mechs. Some of this does not look great. Like, we've got an MVP here. This guy can pilot everything. We've got some people that rolled really good stats, but they've got other restrictions. Like, Kickstart's okay. But Rancer, oh, he's ex-Comstar. That's interesting. That explains why his tactics is probably so high, too. Oh, and he's got Technician? Oh. Okay, that changes things. Now we gotta go through and look at all their skills. Oregon, Periphery, Brave, Spacer, Merchant. Okay, so this guy is just straight up good. We're gonna keep him alive as much as we can.
Yes.
Fester, we're keeping, obviously. Ironhead, what do you got? Inner Sphere, Klutz. Yikes. Klutz, they gain evasion, but they might eject if they get knocked down. Lyran, not a big deal. Military, bonus health, recoil, offensive push accuracy. Yeah, so that's a decent quality. We gotta get rid of Klutz as soon as we can, though. Kickstart, what do you got? Federal, so he's from Davion Space. He's got Merchant and he's got Spacer. All of that is good. Rancer, he's good for just keeping around the base because he's got ex-Comstar and Technician. Ruthless, what have you got? Nothing. You're just a generic dude from Merrick Space. What about you? Bookish, Merchant, Technician. Okay, that's good. And nothing. You're just a generic from the Draconis Combine. Alright, well, we have our pilots. Let's take a look at our mechs. Let's see what we're packing. So we have an Eagle. Very interesting looking mech. It's got a hand, which means we can mount a melee weapon on it. Or a handheld item. It's also got a big ol' gun on that right hand. So let's see. Endo steel frame. It's very good for carrying capacity. Double heatsink kit. Also good. Small engine core. Not great. Extended range large laser on the right hand. Extended range medium laser mounted to the left arm. It's got a tag mounted in the left torso. Not a bad little recon guy, I guess. We got a javelin. We can clearly see it's got 3 missile weapons equipped, so it's going to have some kind of missile boat capabilities. Regular armor, regular structure, not the best on that front. Engine core 180, that's pretty good. Got an SRM-6 and 2 Streak SRM-2s. Streak SRM-2s are useful in that they don't fire unless they have a guaranteed hit, but they don't fire unless they have a guaranteed hit. And they're also only SRM-2s, meaning they're not going to do that much damage. In the early game, guaranteed 20 damage on a hit is useful, but it's not the best course of action. We've also got a Hunchback. We're going to see which one we have. Looks like it's a small autocannon mounted to the shoulder. So we do not have the party back that has 6 lasers mounted on the shoulder. That's an AC-20. So it's got battle fists for punching damage. It's got a small laser mounted on the head. You can see it right up here, just like boop. Medium laser mounted on the right arm. Right torso has the big gun, the AC-20. Medium laser on the left arm. Ammo is stored in the left torso. That's not bad. And finally, we have a Huron Warrior, which is surprising. These are... Isn't the Huron Warrior a clan mech? I don't know. I'm not sure, but we're going to take a look. It's got improved sensors, endo steel, engine core 250. That's not bad. A Gauss rifle. Double ammo bin for the Gauss rifle in the right torso. Extended range large laser, medium pulse laser. That's not bad. See if we got any vehicles out of this. No vehicles, no battle armor. So, we now know what our mechs are. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to check the store and see if there are any components that we want to buy that are going to make our 2.5 million starting C-bills effective. So there is a chasseur here, which is a vehicle, and it looks like it's packing an AC-10 and a machine gun. That could be... Early on, this could be a game changer in terms of what we're dropping into the battlefield. A Salahadin, HCV. A hovercraft with an AC-20. That's not bad. See what this one is. That's the same AC-20. I don't understand what the difference is. Oh, this has flak. This is an anti-air one. Looks like there's very good vehicles available on this planet. Scorpion light tank. Looks like this one's just packing a machine gun. And 2 medium lasers. Just trying to see if there's anything useful that we can buy on here. Acid ammo for SRM launchers. Thank you. We will take that. Advanced optics? We probably want that, yeah. The Rocket 20. Unfortunately, this is a one-shot weapon. Otherwise, I would absolutely put it on our Javelin. Instead, I'm going to take this bolt-on incendiary rocket, and I'm going to put that on the Javelin. Reason being, missile weapons are extremely useful. And Inferno rockets are already good. Because not only do they still do damage, they still generate heat once they connect. So what you do is you get something that has a good shot. You launch these 10 Inferno rockets. This is a 2-shot weapon. And you hope for the best that you set it on fire. The only other thing I can think of, I really want to buy this Chasseur. Like, this is a big risk. But if we buy this, like with the AC-10, I feel as though we would be taking a giant risk in doing that. What is the main battle tank quirk? Oh, it's tough. Minus 10% damage taken. Alright, we're going to take a huge risk, but I'm calculating this risk. I think this is going to pay off later, because not only are we able to drop this on our first operation, like immediately, we are also able to, we have vehicle pilots. We've got some hot shit pilots that can drive this. And with the money that we make from the operations we take this tank on, I feel as though it's going to pay for itself. So, despite the fact that this seems like a bad idea on its face, as a gamble, we're going to take this tank. And then you can see here, Yang, our mech tech, just says, it's a tank, they all look the same. Because it is a tank, and tanks do all look the same. So now we're in bankruptcy projected, exactly where we want to be. We're going to connect to the mercenary review board. We're going to take a job. We're going to see what is of. Now, I'm really curious what a fire truck with paint is supposed to do. Looks like it took a shot at our hunchback, and now the local government has deployed a reinforcement lance. That's not great. The hunchback is going to come charging out of the smoke and attempt to do something, making it Fester's turn. Oh, Elias Tufexis, never stop being grumpy and raspy. So cool. He never even asked to be this cool. He never asked for any of this. Let's see what we can take a shot at. I mean, an AC-20 is going to wreck shop if it connects. The 2 medium lasers are just the icing on the cake. Oh, wow, that leg is about to go down. I really want to take that leg out. It would make me so happy. Because the pilot is already unsettled. If he lost a leg and got knocked down, he'd be full panicked. No, we're taking the shot. We missed, but we connected with one of the lasers. He has now gone from unsettled to stressed. That is even better for us because it lowers his ability to evade and it lowers his accuracy. I've been paying a lot of attention to Baradul's Let's Plays, and frankly, the man taught me how to play RogueTech. Check him out. He is super cool. We could try to snipe this guy with the Gauss rifle. We're not gonna, because that's such an extremely long-range shot, it would be pointless. Really, the ideal scenario here is that we take out the Hunchback, like, right now. We want that gun off the field. Because an Ignis with some SRMs has to get close for SRMs to be effective. A fire truck with paint, what does this even have? 2 fluid guns and a narc launcher. This has an energy weapon. If I remember rightly, as a pack rat, it's a PPC. So that's probably going to be our next priority target. And this wheeled scout has machine guns on it, so we're probably going to use a tank to take that out. But we need to get this Hunchback off the field, because it's got a medium recoilless rifle and a heavy recoilless rifle. Thankfully, it doesn't have autocannons, but we still just need to obliterate it. And considering this guy's headdress, which I know is of significance to Native Americans, it does remind me of Exodia the Forbidden One from Yu-Gi-Oh! So, Exodia, obliterate. Oh, there it is. We took out the left arm and most things. We unsteadied it so it no longer has any evasion until its next action. The pack rat's going to move in. We're going to see what kind of energy weapon it's packing. Large laser. Probably an extended range large laser. And now on movement 6, something else is going to come in, I'm guessing. What are we dealing with? Not sure. The turn has ticked over, though. Oh, it might have been that other Hunchback, actually. Alright, so we've got Shorty in the Javelin, Shotel in the Eagle. Shotel probably needs to reapply that tag. And we have Kickstart in the tank. Yeah, I think we do want to have Kickstart get up here. Because an unsteady, able to topple Hunchback is a super good target. Like, that is the definition of a target of opportunity. I want to say we can get this guy off the field if we hit him. 60 straight structure damage and panicked. We're probably going to send... Shotel over here. I really don't like that voice. I wonder if we can change that. But we're going to put all of these lasers and the tag into the Hunchback. We want to refresh the tag so that our other units can take a shot. Okay, we've destroyed left torso, which should have the ammunition. It may not have the ammunition, which is bad. But left arm and left torso are gone, which means we need to send Shorty to do something new. We could fire the Streak SRMs at that. We could fire at any of the other targets that are available to us. Really, the fire truck would be the best one, but getting this hunchback off the field, I think, is our best priority. Let me see if this SRM6... No, it doesn't even have the possibility of hitting. So, let's just commit. Upper leg is destroyed. We're very close to a knockdown. I'm just a little concerned about this this wheeled scout. Okay, it's got an M laser on it. So we've taken a little bit of armor damage. Nothing too serious. But any damage is bad damage. That's something that you're going to find out in RogueTech pretty quickly. We want to avoid taking as much damage as possible, and we want to stay as evasive as we can be. And that hammer is just a tiny atlas. What the hell? Alright, so the Cyclone's going to move in. It's going to take a shot at the Hunchback, which is probably going to inflict enough stability damage for the knockdown. Okay, more chaff countermeasures. That Hunchback is not going to be doing anything, like, consistently. So now we're going to have to move the Huron Warrior on our next turn because we don't want him standing in fire. We're on 11. Not going to have anything to do for a couple of initiative phases, so it might be a little bit slow going. Now the Locust is smoked and chaffed, which is always good. Let's take a look at what's going to happen on phase 11. That Pack Rat's going to fall back, probably fire the extended range large laser, or it's just retreating, which I find a little bit concerning. The Wolverine is going to try to move closer. And now it is phase 8, where our Hunchback and other mechs can act. So we will first up send Fester out here. He doesn't have a shot on the Hunchback from there. So we may need to No, we don't need to retask if we move directly into that position.
In motion, Commander.
We're going to have to use careful maneuvers to get off this ridge and out of this forest on our next turn. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck here, standing around like an idiot on the high ground while these three get to take shots. The AC-20 only has a 21.7% chance to hit at that range. Really, firing the AC-20 right now is not a good idea. So I'm not going to do it. I am going to fire weapons of opportunity at the target of opportunity. That's going to be that Ignis. Looks like a second Hunchback has entered that smoke screen. And now we can take bugs in our Huron Warrior. Huron Warrior, excuse me. We'll move him over here, and that gives us rear shots on multiple vehicles. Uh, we can actually probably take out the Ignis in a single shot. I don't think a 40% hit chance is worth it for the risk to take on the large laser. So I think we're going to take this. Especially considering we also get the pulse laser in there. And we miss all of it. Beautiful. So, initiative ticks over again. We're now on round 5. We're going to move here, get some evasion. You always want to be moving. Evasion is key. Let's take a look here. 46% chance to hit with those streak SRMs. I think targeting the Ignis is going to be our best bet. I think that taking this off the board is going to be the most effective thing we can do. We're even going to dumbfire these SRMs. And they all missed, but we still hit with the 2 streak SRMs. So we got some damage on there. Those fleas are not really doing much. They're mostly just keeping debuffs on the hunchbacks, which truthfully is pretty useful. I mean, it means that they're not shooting at us, which keeps us alive. We're going to move Chasseur over here. She is going to pick up a little bit of evasion. Or he, sorry. Is going to pick up a little evasion. And we're going to... Let's see what we have the best shot on. Really a 59.2 with the AC-10. Again, targets of opportunity. So we've dealt 48 more structure damage to a location. Looks like center torso's hit pretty good, right arm is hit pretty good, and left leg is hit pretty good. And for those of you listening, if you pay very close attention to the background noise, you'll hear a very special guest, one of my dogs, Oliver. He is normally a very good boy, but sometimes he likes to do a little bit of barking. But really, who doesn't from time to time? We're going to actually get... We're going to get the tag on this Ignis, because that's going to be the next thing we want to take off the field. Hopefully we can just burn through the armor and hit structure immediately, but no guarantees. It is tagged, which means anything else on our team can open up on it. And we're now on phase 11, which means I do believe Fester is going to get a chance to act here in a second. Looks like a single MRM just made contact.
What do you want?
Thankfully, we are not tagged, we are not marked, or narked, rather. No! Oh my god, I wasn't trying to use first aid. Trying to use careful maneuvers. That misclick may have cost us a kill. So we're going to have to wait until 7 when bugs can act. That wheeled scout is going to pull back. I don't even know if this thing has... No, that's right, it has an M laser on it. Not the most effective tool, but that's okay. This time, we're going to click the button that says Careful Maneuvers. We're going to walk down this hill. .5% chances to hit with both the Gauss and the ER large laser. So we'll take the large laser off and keep the medium pulse laser. The reason that I'm saying that being we need to try to stay heat neutral. We're in a desert sunset, so our heat management's going to be jacked already. 80 armor damage and structure exposed. And that was a rear shot. So that's actually super good. Now their cyclone is going to move. It's going to indirect fire LRMs onto that fire truck for no effect, which is unfortunate, but, you know, what can you do? Enemies got 2 units that move on 7, the Wounded Hunchback and the Ignis. They've also got a unit that moves on 6, and it looks like a unit that's going to move on something even less. No effect on target with those Infernos, but it does light the ground on fire, which means we got to get moving on our next turn. The Hunchback is going to fire its recoilless rifles at our Hunchback and get nothing for its trouble. That Pack Rat's going to move, fire that large laser, and he gets nothing. You can see how missions in RogueTech maybe run a little more slowly, and we're kind of lucked into a bad one in as much as we've got way too many reinforcement lances on the screen. Because we've got our lance, we've got the enemy lance, which was huge, and we've got the enemy reinforcements, and we have the allied support lance. So overall, we've put ourselves into a situation where we can't really... it's not that we can't survive this, but this is going to be a long mission. We may even end up we can't break this into a 2-parter, really. Not without a whole bunch of editing changes on our front. Fluid guns, I have no idea what those are going to do. It says it's full of paint, which probably means that it's going to either affect our heat management or it's going to make us more visible on sensors. Either way, just get the kill. Just wipe it off the map. It's got a narc launcher. You don't want narc launchers. So now we've got a friendly unit. Looks like a flea. Those usually have at least one decent laser weapon on them. But instead, it gives us a smoke screen. It's like the Magistracy of Canopus forgot what good weapons are. But somehow we end up rocking up in a Hunchback and a Huron Warrior. Ooh, paint fluid. Decreased target vision range, increased target visual signature. Yeah, so it makes us more visible and it covers the cockpit, meaning we can't see very well.
Already.
We'll go ahead and get the Hunchback moved over here. And let's see what we can take a shot at. 16.9 on the AC-20, not worth. you. 21.7% chance. Really, the only thing we can fire on is the Ignis, and that's using the M lasers. We gotta get off this hillside. It's gonna be the death of us and make this shit take too much time. But we do have 2 actions on initiative phase 12, so hoping that pays off. That pack rat's gonna move in, take a shot at the hunchback, get nothing for its trouble. I also really wish there was a way we could dissipate that friggin' smoke screen, because it is creating a problem. All right, let's use some careful maneuvering. It's gonna absolutely fuck our evasion, but it will let us move down this hill, which is very important to me. Like, escaping the hill is my big goal right now. Let's see if we have a better than 50% chance, so I think we take the coin flip. 60 armor damage. Hasn't exposed structure, but that Ignis cannot be feeling good right now. So now let's get Shotel in the Eagle into position. We can advance in such a manner that we have a rear shot on the Ignis again. And we still have a very good chance of hitting. Since structure is exposed here, we only need to inflict 15 damage. So any hit of these 3 should be enough to kill. And that's why we missed everything. Except the tag. So now the rest of this is basically going to be a whole bunch of NPCs doing things without us. I really wish that at least one of these friendly mechs would, like, actually attack with a weapon. Instead, we just get chaff countermeasures and smoke screens, and that is super annoying. Like, I understand why it's a problem, but at the same time, I really just would like to not be stuck doing this constantly. No hit on the flea, because you're trying to cross-map with an autocannon. Everybody knows the only way you can successfully pull off a cross-map shot with an autocannon is to mount it on an urban mech. The heavy rifle misses, the medium rifle misses, the Huron warrior is fine. Initiative ticks over. I believe Shorty is going first today. Oh, no, someone else is going. Enemy reinforcements, maybe? Ooh. A single Inferno SRM hits. It could be worse. We're going to use careful maneuvering, once again. Get ourselves off of this ridiculous hill. We're going to try to take this pack rat off the field now. Now we're running the risk of overheating. If we do that, maybe we drop the Gauss rifle because it's limited ammunition. No, we have to drop the ER large laser. Hey, turns out when you shoot a vehicle with a Gauss rifle for 80 damage, it explodes. That never fails to make me happy. We can actually go for a melee attack on the fire truck, and it would be relatively effective. Which of these is the rear attack? There we go. Do that. Now, vehicles still take double damage from melee as far as I'm aware, because you can stomp on them. So we kick it for 30 armor damage in the rear, and then we just shoot it with everything straight in the back. The pilot is now unsettled, and the fire truck has lost a lot of armor. Meaning the hammer that's currently hanging out in that smoke cloud can probably do some damage. It shouldn't even come as a surprise that it's now smoked and chaffed. We'll use careful maneuvering again to get off this hill. The hill is called Hope for a destination. I realized quickly when I knew I should, etc., etc. Alright, we have blown through the side armor on the Ignis, which is super good. The hammer is walking backwards and not shooting. That makes absolutely no sense, but we can rock with it. Just keep it going. We are on phase 12, meaning that wheeled scout may still be doing... Yeah, the wheeled scout is doing stuff. And we're still getting shot with paint. I gotta deal with that fire truck sooner rather than later. We do have a rear armor shot. Or we go over here, we focus on this. Yeah, we need big guns off the field. The fire truck is not a threat right now. It's just negatively affecting our missile boat, and that's not really my problem at the moment. And now we've destroyed both hips, I think. The upper and lower. Or left and right, excuse me. Can't have upper and lower hips. Come on.
What do you want?
Anatomy 101. Careful maneuvers this time. Get off the hill. And do we have a shot on anything? We do not. So let's brace up. And I believe that actually takes care of the Inferno SRM that hit us as well. Alright, so we'll take bugs. We're going to need him to move. We can't move. Careful maneuvers, confirm. Go here, and we're going to take a long-range shot, presumably at the Hunchback. Yeah, we're only going to fire the Gauss rifle because we're going to go back to heat neutral on this. We got to improve the heat management on this guy. And it looks like we destroyed the engine. They must have been running Engine XL. And just a brief moment here. We are going to have a brief jump cut, and I will be right back. So I do apologize. We had a brief incident where I kind of lost the audio for this. Basically, since this is my first time editing a YouTube video, I kind of messed up. Let's be honest, I messed up, and this portion of the video doesn't have the live audio that I was playing. So it looks like what we did after we picked this back up is we got Shorty and we had him continue to rear attack that fire truck. We really wanted that fire truck off the field. Not because it was really a threat when it comes to damage, but primarily because it was a threat when it came to, you know, reducing his visibility, and we didn't want that with all the smoke on the field already. So we can see that the ammo explosion occurred, the engine got critted. Being an internal combustion engine, it undoubtedly got, you know, the giant fireball explosion, so we needed to get him out of there. We saw the Wolverine got chaffed again by the fleas, which basically all they're doing is running around and throwing chaff at everything. We do see as well that the Locust was not able to do anything. It could not make an attack. The Wolverine continues moving, takes a shot at the flea in retaliation, and nothing really happens. A significant number of these later turns actually consists of nothing really happens. The Hunchback is predominantly Fester's Hunchback, I should say. Doesn't really have any targets it can go after outside of visual range. It's not capable of indirect fire due to not having any LRMs mounted, so we have to sprint into the smoke and most likely work our way down around that southwest or bottom right ridgeline. North, south, east, and west are not really marked on these Battletech maps, so I kind of improvise. That being said, it looks like this is going to be a cut, so we will just wait before Kickstart takes his turn. Waiting. Keep in mind that this needs to be cut. We're probably going to cut a decent chunk of this. Action. Okay, so Kickstart in the Chasseur is actually going to move onto rough terrain. I do recall moving the Chasseur onto rough terrain because as a tank, I do believe it has less penalties to being on rough terrain due to the treaded propulsion system. Our adventure continues. Bugs takes... Unfortunately, he has to continue taking careful maneuvers to get off that hill, the great big hill of hope for a destination. And he will brace up there. The wheeled scout is still down there, but we are not going to stress too hard about that as it's not really capable of doing much. The allied flea is going to pull back and probably fire more smoke and chaff at the Hunchback. While that benefits us in one way, in that the Hunchback's visibility is reduced, it also prevents us from really getting decent shots off at the Hunchback ourselves. So at this point, with it being turn 9, or initiative phase 9, we see the Scout is going to continue retreating, and Chotel is going to be moving forward into the combat further. It looks like this is also going to be a cut as well. There we go. Chotel is acting. We're going to move Chotel down that way. We're going to try and get some tag shots onto the hostiles down there. We can see they're in the smoke cloud. Visibility is reduced. It's not really going to help us out too much, but it is something. So now on 7, we have another allied mech that's going to act. It is the Cyclone over there. And that one uses the bolt-on chaff countermeasures as opposed to the fleas that are just like firing mortars. We can see that the SRMs do impact that, or I think they're MRMs actually. They might be MRMs. Those impact the Wolverine. The Hunchback takes a move and entrenches itself, and this does continue for a little bit. So the Javelin does move over there with Shorty to start taking more shots at the Streak SR, or at the Wheeled Scout. Unfortunately, there's not much to fire at because it's sitting in a mineral field. We still pull the trigger on it just in case, but the SRMs do not make impact. Initiative ticks over. It looks like Shotel is up first. Or, excuse me, initiative did not tick over. Shorty was first to go on that. So we're going to move Shotel in the Eagle down over to here and start taking shots at anybody we can. We do have a good shot on the Hunchback right there. Very good shot. And so we will take that shot. It looks like I was also discussing the same thing before I lost the audio. We do burn through a little bit of armor, and we get the tag on it, which is going to make all of our later shots impact significantly harder. The little hammer that couldn't is going to continue running around and doing nothing, which is unfortunate, but it's what we have. Chasseur is going to start heading up to take shots at that Wheeled Scout. It's not a great hit chance, 22.3. We don't really want to pull the trigger on that, so we're going to brace up. That said, it looks like we are now on an allied turn. The Flea is going to move. It's likely just going to fire chaff. We see that nothing really happens. And we move on to the next turn. The Locust moves into the smoke screen, remains evasive, remains entrenched. Nothing major happens. Let's see, initiative phase 12. Looks like the Cyclone fires an LRM barrage at the Hunchback. One missile makes impact for 4 damage. And that's about it. So next up we have an enemy acting. Looks like the Wheeled Scout, which doesn't do anything. And we send Bugs, who we would ordinarily have make that contact. We do send him up there, and I believe this is a one-shot kill. We take the shot with everything, or at least the extended range large and the medium pulse. We burn through a decent chunk of that armor, because even though it's sitting in a mineral field, it's not, it's still a threat on the board, and we have to take it off. The Flea continues firing mortar rounds with smoke charges at the Wolverine. Bolt-on chaff countermeasures make impact, so the Wolverine's not really going to be hitting anybody right now. Cut. Action. Fester is going to move down here. Like I mentioned, the terrain really did not do us any favors, but we did have to get that Hunchback around the ridge, and we were, going to push right into there to try to get that shot. It's going to be a long run. And there is a lot of foot slogging in the second portion of this video. We do see the Wolverine, I believe, takes a shot at the Eagle here. Might not have been this turn. Curse of coming back to edit after I recorded. Doing the voiceover, though, doing this dub is not actually that bad. Looks like the Eagle still has not taken any damage, despite being fired at multiple times. And we will now go ahead and have Shorty continue with the plan that he's had all along, which is to walk up and stomp on things. So he does kick a hole in it to the tune of 30 armor damage. We do put a little bit more damage onto it, hopefully, with the missiles. No, they all miss. Either way, we will continue to deal some damage to that vehicle as we focus on other threats. This is when our Eagle takes a... Oh! Wait a minute. I was panicking over nothing. The Locust took a shot at the Eagle with AP machine guns. And I must not have been reading the combat log that closely, because 3/4 of that damage went straight into the Hunchback. And I was like panicking, being like, oh god, I gotta get the Eagle to safety. We do see that the Flea closes in and starts opening fire on that Wolverine. The Wolverine really is the biggest threat on the board still. I believe that thing was packing an AC-10. Or a heavy rifle. Either one. So our Cyclone, or rather the Allied Cyclone, continues moving in. I believe it fires another LRM barrage. Yeah, we see all those 5 armor damage impacts. It's definitely doing some work on our behalf. So we move over to Fester with the Hunchback, and we start getting him sprinting around that corner, I believe. Yeah, and we take him through the smoke screen, despite the fact that it's going to affect visibility, on account of the fact that we really just need a shot on someone. We need to get that AC-20 back in play and dealing damage. Because right now, the allied mechs are really doing all the work for us, and I was starting to get concerned they were going to poach our kills. We do see that the Wolverine gets its structure exposed, which is very good for us. Obviously not good for the Wolverine, but we make use of that. The Scout starts trying to run from Shorty and ends up running closer to the Huron Warrior that Bugs is piloting. On 10, it is actually Bugs' turn to act, as well as kickstart, which we take Bugs, and we are actually going to have him... No, we're not going to take a charge, because the charge will deal damage to us, as well as dealing stability damage to us. So we're just going to move him up and take a quick shot at the vehicle. I believe. Don't quote me on that. Ah, no, this is where we decided to turn and use him for a better purpose, because that Gauss rifle is better for anti-mech combat. We do, however, let Kickstart get up in there and start shooting. The shot chance is still not great, but we do up the number of shots from the machine gun, and we make an effort. Nothing really connects. 2 of the 6 shots from the machine gun hit, but it does leave the pilot unsettled. We take Eagle out around the side, and we continue putting some fire on targets. The main thing we were focused on at that point was the Locust, because of the AP machine gun barrage. Like I said, we misread the combat log. That all went into the Hunchback, and it did not go into our Eagle, but even so, we still had to play it cautious. Because if that had connected with our Eagle as a light mech, it would have left us in a real bad spot. The medium rifle and heavy rifle do not connect with the Eagle because of our 4 evasion and cover, and the target being in a cloud of smoke. And cut. We see that Shorty in the Javelin is going to go in for a rear attack. We're going to basically kick the rear armor of the Wheeled Scout for 30 damage, which ups the pilot to stressed, and then we're just going to spew rockets into it, at which point the vehicle explodes. That puts us in a good spot. At least we've removed the reinforcement lance, and we can now continue putting pressure on those larger mechs. So we start sprinting the Chasseur up, and we start sprinting the Huron Warrior and Javelin as well on their turns. It doesn't really end up being enough to make a difference, but the hammer, the little hammer that couldn't, keeps running around trying to do something, and that hammer does not fire a single shot for the entirety of the combat. We see that plenty more MRMs impact the Wolverine. It does take a hit to a primitive engine, a critical hit, I should say, to a primitive engine. The primitive engine does explode, if destroyed, into a giant cloud of fiery awfulness. So we observe as the enemies kind of do their thing, and we do see these start to impact. 2 armor, 1 structure. And it looks like they're not actually machine guns with AP ammo on reviewing this video. It looks more like they're how do I put this? Not micro missiles, tandem rockets maybe? Tandem rockets do double damage. Or not double damage, but armor and structural damage. So we don't really have any good shots here, but we do keep firing on the Hunchback because, I mean, putting any heat on that is good. We do expose the structure, and we get the tag on the Hunchback, which means our other units are going to have an easier time hitting it. The Flea keeps up putting pressure on that Wolverine, and now it becomes Fester's turn, and Fester is almost in combat. And cut. So we do move him onto the rough terrain so that way he can get a shot. It doesn't really do much. The AC-20 has a less than 50% chance to hit, unfortunately. It does make impact, though, and take out an entire arm, which is very good. So we basically blew a hole the size of a bus in the Wolverine. And cut. Action. Bugs is up. We are going to just sprint him down there. We're trying to get him into combat as quickly as possible, and we're hoping that works out. So phase 6, I believe, is going to be the Hunchback. It's going to be somebody. Yeah, it's the Hunchback. He's got low initiative. He does keep moving through the smoke screen, at which point we get Shorty back. And we start doing our best to get him into combat. This is part of the problem. We ended up having to foot slog the Javelin and the Huron Warrior down the field to go engage the Hunchback and the Wolverine. It didn't go well. Not that we took overly much damage, but we still had a lot of problems. The Wolverine pilot is panicked, though. And that does make things a little bit simpler for us. So, as we see here, the Locust just runs, gets evasive, goes into cover. And the little hammer that couldn't continues to not. And we take over on Chotel. This is when we figure out a little bit of a strategy. We can move between those two cover points again and again, keep racking up evasive and firing off shots. We take the 34% chance to hit the Wolverine. It does pay off. We blow the armor off of another point on the Wolverine, and we leave it in a pretty bad spot. The Flea continues to do flea things. I'm guessing bolt-on chaff countermeasures hit the Wolverine, but it doesn't really matter because its sensors are already in the toilet. The Hunchback goes rushing out of the smoke screen, which would actually give it a better shot, but it also means it's easier for us to shoot too. And cut. Kickstart is up. So we take over on that. And we just double move the Chasseur up to the combat zone. The Wolverine tries to jump jet, and it does fire, hitting the Hunchback. It does blow off a decent chunk of armor, but it does not expose structure. Still leaves us in a good spot. And we check the Hunchback. It's got a medium rifle, which has been critted, a heavy rifle, and that's about it. So at this point, the Huron Warrior is now somewhat in range. It doesn't have a clear line of fire, but on our next turn, it will be able to start shooting. Presumably if we can get it up to that ridge line. The Cyclone is going to keep moving and be the little mech that could. Drop some LRMs, none of which seem to have any effect. And we're going to move Fester in the Hunchback over to there where he can take a shot at the Wolverine. Unfortunately, no Red Dawn remake for you. We do see that the center torso and both legs are jacked. So if we hit either one of those, it's going to be highly effective. 48.7% chances to hit on all three. It's not ideal, but we do need the AC 20 if we intend to take out any body part in a single hit. So we open fire at some point. We do take a look at the head, which does only have 30 armor and 18 structure. We take the shot, and both lasers hit, but the AC 20 misses. It's unfortunate, but it's still damage. And that's what counts. So we do break the Javelin out into a sprint once again. It arrives where it intended to go. The Flea continues to open fire, does some serious damage, crits a jump jet, and takes out a good chunk of stability. We were really hoping that we would get the knockdown on the Wolverine to try and cause the pilot to force an eject, but I don't believe that's what happened. The Flea continues to do flea things, doesn't take a shot. Initiative phase 13 rolls around, the Locust exists, basically just keeps running, keeps taking cover. Phase 12 hits, and the little hammer that couldn't still can't. Phase 11 is actually good for us. We have 2 mechs to activate as compared to the 1 on the enemy team. However, the Hunchback does take some nasty damage on this one. Another shot from the Wolverine. So that's 40 armor down. It's a pretty big hunk of metal. And we prioritize moving the Chasseur because we really want to try and get that AC-10 into combat as well. We have no shot, but we start working on that. We send Chotel, and we move... I believe we move slightly on this one because, as you could see, for a brief second, we had a rear armor shot on a target. Yep, there it is. There's our rear armor shot. So, we have a 54% chance to hit with the ER large laser, 40% with the ER medium, and the tag 47.3. And at that point, we quite literally just one-shot the Locust, because we critted the internal combustion engine and blew it up. So, no more Locust. Which takes care of all of those little tandem rockets that we were concerned about. We take the Hunchback over to the ridgeline, we have it lean slightly over, and it's got 3 60% chances to hit and a 55. It takes the shot and only hits with a medium laser. Statistically, not great. We take Bugs, get him into play. He now has a line of fire, which we absolutely take advantage of, using the Gauss rifle and the extended range large laser. We do need that 80 damage to just take a chunk out of whatever we can hit. So we fire, we make impact on the center torso, and explode him. And in fact, we even destroy the right leg as well. So we blew the ever-loving shit out of that mech. This next portion gets a little bit slow. It's unfortunate, as we do blow a giant hole through the Wolverine, but the next part of this mission I do remember gets a little slow. Because what we end up doing is, on phase 23, we instantly killed that pilot. I can see I'm going over the combat logs in review. So we take Shorty. Shorty doesn't have a shot on anybody, which is unfortunate. But we're going to keep trying to move him up into combat so he can do something. We'll move Kickstart, and she can actually get a shot right there with the AC-10. It's not in optimal range, but we do have a 71.3% chance to hit, and we've also got the machine gun queued up for 6 shots. We hit with 4 of the 6 shots from the machine gun, but the AC-10 does miss. The hammer continues to do nothing, which really disappoints me, because, I mean, it looks like a tiny Atlas. You would expect it to wreck shop, right? But it doesn't. So we rotate the Huron Warrior, and we take a shot on this. We miss all 3 shots, which is a total bummer. We managed to accomplish nothing with that high hit percent chance. But it's okay because of what comes next. And I don't want to spoil it because I did watch this in review. We do see the flea goes ahead and does what the flea does and throws a whole bunch of smoke and chaff onto the field. And we've actually lost our shot on the Hunchback from here. So we need to start the careful maneuvers dance once again and slowly get the Hunchback back into position. The Cyclone drops another LRM bombardment on it. Indirect fire ends up assisting us once again. We tick back to Shotel, who does have a shot. We keep moving her away from the smoke and giving her shots on side armor because we want to remove right torso from the equation. So we do get a fire. We do fire on it. We do make contact with the medium laser, but only the medium laser. The Hunchback does take another rear shot from a friendly flea, and it tries to move. Takes a shot at the Huron warrior, doesn't hit. And now Shorty comes in with the javelins. He still has no shot. Which is kind of a bummer, but we don't have a choice. We have to brace him up. Another friendly flea rolls in. Is it going to be helpful? No, because it's just sending smoke and chaff again. So we pop back over to Shotel in the Eagle. And since our only path that continues with us getting a shot is careful maneuvers, that is what we do. And we continue to empty our weapons into the Hunchback. We hit with the medium laser and the tag. However, the laser does destroy the left arm, which is good. That helps us. Kickstart and the Chasseur. I believe we actually just take a straight attack chance on this. We hit with the AC-10, that's the first thing. And then the second thing we do is just dump ammo into it, which leaves the pilot at 1 health and 1 activation remaining for bleeding out. The reason that I call this out is because at this point, we start slow playing. We're quite literally just waiting for the pilot to die because he will leave us an intact Hunchback. We do fire the medium pulse laser in the hopes that we can kind of get the head hit and, maybe accomplish something. But it is slow going, and what we end up doing is just observing as the little hammer that can't, never did. The flea will continue to go in. The Cyclone is going to do whatever Cyclones do. And we can see even the allied units aren't really shooting. The activation for the Hunchback continues. And I believe he actually uses first aid on this turn to stay alive. But we just keep on keeping on. Cut here. Action. And we go to Fester, who is also going to do the careful maneuvers dance just to get down the hill. We still don't have a shot on the Hunchback, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to wait for him to bleed out. So we brace up. Next, we cut over to Shorty. And we don't really want to take any risks with him, especially since the activation that the Hunchback pilot has could still result in a shot on him. The flea is going to go in, and I believe it just fired artillery again. So Shotel continues to do what Shotel does. Cut here. Action. We're going to continue to careful maneuvers just so we have line of fire. We think to ourselves whether or not it's worth it. I mean, there's a very slim chance that it's going to kill. So we turn off the large laser, we keep the tag in case we need it, and we use the medium laser just to put a tiny amount of damage. We were kind of hoping that we would maybe hit the head or otherwise break structure and cause the Hunchback pilot to panic and maybe panic punch. We see that the rear attack does hit the Hunchback once again from that flea. I think that might have been a small laser. We do move the Chasseur, and we do not use the AC-10 because we do not want to risk blowing up the Hunchback. But we do have 6 shots in the machine gun and a better than average chance of hitting the mech's head. Unfortunately, only 3 of the 6 shots make impact, and none of them hit the head, so we do not kill the pilot. And basically at this point, we just kind of circle around and taunt. So we go to bugs, careful maneuvers, get them down the hill. We take a look at the offensive push option to see if we can make a called shot at the Hunchback's head. We do not have the option, unfortunately. I believe at that point we decide to shift and take a shot at the leg. We do not make impact with the leg, by the way. So we switch over to Fester, who we still have to make careful maneuvers with. We do have a rear angle shot on the Hunchback at this point, but we're still not going to take it because we are waiting for the pilot to bleed out. On initiative phase 1, the pilot does activate. He tries to move. He's on fire. He panics. He tries to become evasive. He takes a shot at the Eagle and becomes incapacitated because he bled out. At that point, we get the message from our XO, Darius, good job, the people can get back to their lives again. It's a little bit dark that we ended up doing that. Cut here. Alright, and here is our end of mission screen. We do see that we gained an extra 100,000 C-bills for destroying the enemy units and the local government reinforcements. We did destroy the main lance, the regular support lance, and the third support lance that RogueTech gave us. We can also see that our drop costs are 56,090 versus the 51,650 that we had previously. If we had not succeeded at this mission, we would have bankrupted ourselves completely. We would have been at negative 5,000 just from the drop, and that's before ammo, coolant, heatsink maintenance, everything else. So the good news is we succeeded. We gained 2 rep with the Magistracy of Canopus. Like I said, the planetary government are free punching bags. We don't really have to worry about them. The Mercenary Review Board, we did get a little cred with them. Our morale is discouraged at 19, but we can improve that. And of course, yeah, the Mercenary Review Board. I'm not sure if that actually does anything in RogueTech. It used to do things in vanilla Battletech, but again, I'm not sure. Maybe someone in the comments can help out with that. So we move on to the mech review screen. We see Fester got 610 XP, no kills. Bugs in the Huron Warrior got a vehicle and 2 mechs. Shorty got 671 XP, 2 vehicle kills. Chotel got 1 mech kill and 670 XP, as well as having some structure exposed and taking some structural damage. So that's going to be a little bit of repair time, but nothing major. We do pop over to Chessur, who also got, or Kickstart rather, in the Chessur, who also got no kills, but 617 XP, and that's going to be valuable as we can use that to improve his lower tier stats. Cut here. And now we're at the salvage assignment screen. We can see we got the intact Hunchback because of the fact that we did let the pilot bleed out instead of destroying the center torso. Plenty of other stuff as well. Bolt-on tandem rockets, that's going to be extremely useful. We do want to look at the Hunchback though and see what all it has, because we can't take it with us. We don't have the 16 salvage slots needed. If we'd gone full salvage, we would have gotten it. But the primitive armor, primitive FCS, primitive cockpit, primitive sensors, primitive engine, all of that is terrible. And the medium and heavy rifle are primitive weapons equivalent to autocannon. They have a lot of restrictions on them. So we don't really want to take that. We look at everything else. The bolt-on AMS does stand out to me. All of these parts just don't really do much. The sensors and everything, they're not really that great. SRM Inferno ammo, we're going to be mounting that in the Javelin. And the bolt-on anti-missile system is amazing. I would take the bolt-on tandem rockets, but bolt-on tandem rockets are, it's a 2-shot weapon, whereas a bolt-on AMS is guaranteed survivability in a lot of engagements, especially where indirect fire LRMs are going to come into play. You don't want to be getting peppered with LRMs constantly, because eventually they will chew through your armor. So the bolt-on AMS is the way to go. It's now randomly calculating the salvage. It's disassembling the parts of the mechs that were still intact. Got a couple pieces of the wheeled scout. We got an AC-5, 2 medium rifles, primitive cockpit. The engine core 200 is alright. That's going to be money, though, most likely. The primitive sensors are garbage. We're going to get rid of them. Ammo for the heavy rifle. We don't have a heavy rifle. I think I misinterpreted here, and I thought it gave me medium rifle ammo, but it's actually just the medium rifle itself. And so what we end up doing is, I believe we end up selling a few things, and we move on from there. Now, I know after this point, we are going to end up going back to the main screen and the mech lab, and that is actually where we're going to end the episode. So there's going to be a brief cut, and we will see back at the main screen. So our entire lance was damaged. It's just minor armor damage except for the eagle, which took some structural damage. It's going to cost 11,000 C-bills in 6 days for repairs, which really isn't too bad. So we will go ahead and get started from the mech tech screen, and we will visit the mech bay on the next episode. Now that we have a decent amount of C-bills, we can make some upgrades. One thing to notice as well is that your pilots will get fatigued in RogueTech, and during that time their stats are garbage and you can't spend XP on them. But that is something we'll go over next episode. That is going to be a thing that we work on. We're going to upgrade our pilots, we're going to upgrade our mechs, we're going to get all of that taken care of. I will try to have a schedule set up for recording and editing and uploading, and we're going to make this a recurring thing in the LP. So we will revisit everything, and hopefully we won't have any more audio hiccups, But once again, I want to thank everybody. Mr. Rogers would love you just the way you are, and so do I. So be good to each other out there, and I will see you in the next episode.